So right now,
From my experience.
okay, well, for me, he doesn't like sitting there.
Thank you so much. Way over the jet lag, you're still struggling?
Listen, man.
Monday mornings are always hard to deal with.
You said it
The driver is.
But I know. Like, this is what you're doing.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. This is a very special session of our Liftoff with Wing webinar series. This is the first webinar series with a live studio audience, so thank you. And thank you so much to everyone who's joined online and for Paul Schwering for coming here to the Ormat office today. Paul is a near-surface geophysicist with practical experience spanning geothermal energy resource characterization, geologic engineering, infrastructure investigations, hydrogeology, environmental remediation, and mineral exploration since 2005. He's enthusiastic about the potential for geothermal resources to bolster energy surety and about designing and executing multifaceted experiments for subsurface characterization. Paul has been an avid wingman since 2017 and currently serves on the Wing USA Board of Directors. So thank you, Paul, for being here today. You want to start by telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, and thanks, Maddie, and thanks everyone here for turning up. This boy, I'm enjoying the heck out of this. You know, we had some bio on me there. I wish I could get everybody's bio here. I'm completely curious, but we won't have time for that or for the folks online. Thanks everyone for tuning in. But yeah, so I'm with, I do research and development with Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. Now, I'm here as a wingman, so not particularly as a PNNL employee, but as someone who really appreciates the value of the wing mission and how everyone, literally everyone here, everyone online can contribute to it. And so, yeah, my, I guess as far as a little bit more of my background, I think a very big driver for what makes me passionate about wing is also being a father and wanting to see a good and equitable world for my children. I have one daughter, one son to grow up in and excel in whatever they're going to do. I'm pretty sure they're going to go geothermal because I just can't stop talking about it, but that's okay. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Other than I'll just say I've been working remotely for PNNL since starting with them in September. And I live and work out of Carson City, so that's why I'm here locally and really glad to be in the Ormat office today.
Thanks for making the trek up from Carson.
Pleasure, and what a day for it.
Yeah. So the topic of our webinar today is the 5 crucial aspects of being a wingman. So can you start off by just telling us why is it so important for us to have wingmen in this industry?
Absolutely, and so this is something I've stated before, but I think is a really good backdrop for today's conversation. So, you know, what we're talking about we'll stay specific to geothermal, but I know we can map this to many other different disciplines. It's from its outset and tradition, a male-dominated industry. Okay, simply put. That has very much been changing. I know that the founders of Wing, some of the originals there that kicked off Wing in 2013, can speak and have spoken about how much progress and encouraging aspects of the culture in the geothermal energy sector has improved. But there's still, the other thing they'll say almost in the same breath is, but there's still a long ways to go for what would be perceived and received as an equitable place as a female in the geothermal energy sector. So the importance of wingmen, you know, we're talking about advocacy here, I think, and allyship. And so I guess what I really see as kind of at the core of that is that it's going to take action from everybody. Okay, if you want to see an equitable future for everyone, you have to show up for them. They have to show up for you. You have to have each other's back in all of this. If anyone's excluded from that, if anyone doesn't see that same equitable seat, not only are they left out, but now that's one person that you can't count as an ally. That's a disaster, I think. And so this is where I think wingmen have some particular and critical roles in this, just as the women that are advocating do too. That's my speech.
So you mentioned that there are 5 crucial aspects of being a wingman. Do you want to take us through what those 5 aspects are?
Sure. And again, this is largely my observations and experience speaking here. And I'll also say that I think the primary qualification I have for talking about these things is I have mastered none of them. Okay, I am still working on all of this because I think that's what this is. This is a continuous process. This is a continuous work because ultimately I'm talking a lot about a lot of both cultural and even personal hardwiring, just from our upbringing and everything that's gone on over the decades. So that's so yeah, there it is. That's my. We good? Okay, cool.
Some photos.
Gotcha. But yeah, so like I said, that's my take here. Is I'm going to share these 5 things that I think are kind of top of my list. And by no means does that make this comprehensive. It's simply a top 5. There's lots of other aspects, and I'd really love to hear other critical things from other members of the group here today and online. But well, so let's pick one. I'll start with the one that I think maybe doesn't have as much impact. It's kind of the let's start there sort of process, and I'm just going to label it working on our jargon. Okay, so this takes on a lot of forms, and I do not want to get into a split hairs on what any of these mean, what the background is, what the intentions were, none of that. It's simply a place where you check yourself on your jargon. Hey, we're going out on this project and it's a 3-man effort. Okay, I mean, fair, fine. But maybe it'd be just as easy to say that's a 3-person effort, or, whatever you want to say, very low level stuff. But, it shows up in documentation. 30-man maximum occupancy, all this stuff. These are really easy things that any one of us can do just in our day-to-day typing, just in our day-to-day conversations. Make it a human effort, make it a person effort. That's what this is. We're all people. There's no need for the gender distinction there. That's what I'll kind of cry out against here. And like I said, I'm gonna peek over the ledge here at everything from, let's say, adjectives, pronouns, all of that. There is a lot of dialogue to be had there. Everybody's going to have a lot of different perceptions on all of that. And I think that is fair. Those are important conversations to have for what keeps us at our comfort level versus what doesn't. But I'm going to back right away from that and say that's one piece, but just on your own, by yourself, you can just make these really small changes that suddenly open up what feels more like an inclusive language without having to go too far down any sort of rabbit hole or discussion. It's just very easy things you can do in your day-to-day. So that'd be just one piece, is I would say, is work on your jargon. Let's pause there. Thoughts, questions?
Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit, but it's also like, it's easy to fall into those traps because, like, I consider guys gender neutral, but I know that that's not a universal truth, and that can like set some people off. So it's definitely something worth consciously trying to correct.
And that's it. And that therein lies the key point, that word consciously. What we consciously do is going to make all the difference here, because unconsciously it's going to flow. we're all hardwired. We have those biases, at those imprints that, you know, can range from just colloquialism to our upbringing and so forth. So take a moment to be a little more conscious about it. And that'll go an awful long ways. I really appreciate that point, Drew.
One thing we do have access to is AI. We can ask AI, make this communication gender neutral, or check this for any type of flagrant things that are not appropriate, right? Of course, but I think we always share from a good place. Most of us do, almost all of us do, from a good place in our heart. We're not intending to be exclusive or, you know, gender specific. To your point, I too grew up, guys is gender neutral, you guys, but people can't read our intent. So it's important to be very specific when possible.
And it's hard to register your own biases frequently.
Totally.
I think probably the first time I got called on saying guys, I was like, what? That my reaction does not invalidate the opposite reaction, right? So.
Well put.
I think at the surface level too, it may seem like that's something that's low impact, but I think over time, especially as you kind of consciously change your thinking, that can be something that can signal to others that they should maybe think twice too, and also signal to others that you are an inclusive person, that you're making an effort to be inclusive. So I think that's a good way to kick off the list.
Cool, thanks. Well, and appreciate all that feedback and consideration. And you know, this all very naturally, I think ties into the next part I wanted to get into, because this is something Kelly will appreciate too, as we worked on this together. Check your bias. Okay, that's what this is all about, right there. And like you said, this will have those implications down the road, these kind of small, subtle things. But ultimately, yeah, you don't know what you don't know. As you put it, you know, someone's, you know, your inability to register the same reaction to someone else does not invalidate that reaction or your own. It's all valid. And so being able to check your bias is probably one of the most important yet difficult things we have to do in this day to day of allyship and advocacy. I heard this really good quote. This was stated by a colleague in Geothermal. And he said it, he was talking about this from a scientific perspective, but it absolutely holds, and this will stay with me forever. He said, biases are the impediments to understanding. And I mean, that has just been echoing in my head, and I really wanted to share that, because that's exactly what it is. That hard wiring, that's what stops us from understanding, from hearing, from getting a sense of that perception. Those biases, those things we're hardwired to, are ultimately
looking what we
act as
already have.
a silencer to
How can we
those.
use this in a better way, in a
that
meaningful way?
feedback. I think we've got
Yeah,
a hot mic there.
yeah,
Think of the heat stored deep underground,
somebody online.
like those silent geothermal reservoirs. Innovation sits at the core of progress, quiet,
That's
steady,
Carlos.
and powerful. Quiet, steady, and powerful.
Oh God.
Geothermal energy shows what innovations
Are
can
you
still
able
can
to
do.
mute?
I can find the person.
Taking the earth on warmth
Webinars going on.
and turning into a clean,
I'm
reliable,
trying to figure out who it is.
clean,
let's let-
reliable power.
Carlos Miraz.
You forced me to.
I can't do it.
Yep, I can.
There we go. All
If
right.
everyone online can please mute themselves, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
Right. Dueling webinars. That was unexpected, but we can do it. And anyhow, so yeah, wanted to share that point, and I'll share a personal story here with a colleague that I was working with. This goes back, I mean, pre geothermal good life days for me, and working in the field with a woman who was riding along in a truck with me. We're doing field geophysics. we get to a cattle gate. It's one of those ones you kind of got to brace yourself against the barbed wire, pop it open with your shoulder and open it up, sort of thing. Yeah, very familiar, right? Well, a standard practice is the person who's sitting shotgun right next to you is the one who hops out, does it, you drive through and so forth. Hold up, I hit park, and as she was reaching for the door, I said, no, I got it. And just walked out and did that. Opened the thing, got back in, shut the door, drove forward, parked, and then I just realized how painfully quiet it was next to me. And I looked, and I mean, yeah, that was pretty much like rage in human form. And I said, and I just kind of turned off the car, went and closed the gate, came back and said, what's the matter? And yeah, I got told in no uncertain terms what was the matter there. I had made right there a decision that that person for this task, that, by the way, she'd been a rancher. She knows how to do this as well or better than I do. But my bias took over, and I basically said, no, I'll be the dude and I'll go open that gate. And that, and I mean, the just that raw, frankly, fierce energy that she hit me with there, which I apologize for and just spent, I mean, I spent a lot of time ruminating on that. And it changed my behavior. It changed my perspective. You know, there was no reason to just make that call right there and basically declare that person unworthy of a menial task when we're out here to do pretty complicated geophysics. Sets a bad tone. And I mean, I'll credit her with basically saying, you know, she kicked butt the rest of the day, you know, nothing like a little rage fielding, I suppose. But what I'm happy to say too is that person remains one of my friends for life, okay? Because we had that reckoning, we got through it, and I learned from it. And so that's what I mean, though, when I say check your bias. That was an unconscious moment for me, and I've been a lot more conscious about it ever since. So there, that's one piece anyway. So I'd love to hear some thoughts, feedback there.
Well, I think your response in that situation also speaks volumes, because it's really easy when you're called out on something to take that discomfort and deny. And just taking that, internalizing it, and changing your thinking is probably the reason you're still friends with her today, to be honest. So
I like to think so too. Thanks, Maddie.
I think it's a really interesting example though, because I think that there's other people that wouldn't have felt comfortable doing that, right?
Sure.
And so it's more like asking like, hey, do you want to get the gate or do you want me to get the gate? Not assuming either way, right?
I love this point. And that was it. If I had asked and she said no, that's at least a conversation.
Yeah.
All good. Or, you know, if she did it and, you know, then found she needed some help. Like I said, she clearly wouldn't have. But in that case, that's such a key moment there, is just stopping and asking.
Yeah.
That would have been a whole different thing. Now that said, I think I needed to learn my lesson there. But I love this point. I mean, stopping and asking, I mean, talk about the ultimate way to get people's buy-in right off the bat.
And I think also good for her for having the courage, I guess, or confidence to be able to tell you that pissed her off.
Yep.
I think that like as women in the industry, a lot of times we don't have that courage to be like, hey, I don't like how you handled that. Here's a suggestion for how to handle it differently.
Yep, I agree. And I think there's, because biases primarily, I think there's a barrier there. And I think that can work in different ways. You know, you mentioned too, I could definitely have, and I've seen this play out too, I definitely could have been indignant about that, about getting that feedback. And there again is another barrier to understanding that and engagement.
Because you could have taken it from the point of, I'm just trying to be chivalrous and do this task I don't think you want to do.
Right.
But that's assumptions and intention again. And I think the other part is, you said at the beginning, geothermal has been a historically male-dominated industry. So bias is not just gender bias. There's all types of bias.
That's right.
Experience, knowledge, stature, position, yeah. So we have to be mindful of all of those different types of biases so that we don't let the fact that I've done this before and you haven't, or I don't think you've done this before, or strength, I don't know if there's a specific strength bias or not, but believing that somebody can do it is your belief that I know you can do this. If you can't, I'll help, but that belief in somebody is very powerful too.
I agree. Anyone from online? It's okay, there's more. All right. We'll go on to a third one then. This is and I do want to say, I think all of this will in some way transcend gender, but I'm trying to stay pretty specific to wingman behaviors and strategies and so forth here. Here's another one, and that's I'm going to call it checking your levels. Okay, so this is a personal check on yourself. Like, it's very hard to be a good advocate, a good ally, when you're not feeling in a good place. I feel, and just again, this is something I've nominally observed. I think men in a pretty big way tend to swallow some of what they're feeling, or kind of bin it and try to, and regardless of the intention, maybe overcorrect or overtry, or frankly can be a little blind to all of these things we're talking about: conscious behavior, how someone is receiving you, all of these pieces. And it's it's kind of wild, the things that can suddenly put you in a bad place, and suddenly you're not that ally that you could be. It's okay to call that time out, to check yourself, and even be able to say, like, I think it's important to be able to say, like, I'm so sorry, I'm not in a good place right now. I'm not really going to be able to state what I need to or can impart here. We all need that break sometimes, and the darndest things can set it off. Oh gosh, it's a familiar number. What could this be? Hi, have you considered refinancing your home? Oh gee, ooh wee! I sure appreciate that unsolicited call. Ooh wee! Right? All these things. It's so minor sometimes what can suddenly set you off and put you in this kind of blinded state, where all of a sudden you're now blind to what you're putting out there, what others are putting out there. It's not a healthy thing. And so I just want to state, like, take that check. And sometimes the best thing to do is just kind of back off and give yourself some space, reset, get back into your, yep, I'm a conscious ally, yep, I'm here to do my good work and be with my team. Do that part. I struggle with that immensely. I try to take all of it in sometimes, and all right, I'll just put my face on it and get through it. And golly, if that hasn't been some of the things that I've said that I regret the most were usually when I have been in a place like that, where my levels were way off, and somebody afterwards was kind of like, we're going to have a whiskey tango foxtrot, was that conversation. And those are the worst, to look back and go, gosh, if I had just backed off, if I had just given myself a break, if I had just kind of held my tongue and not been in such a frenzy, imagine the damage I could have prevented just by backing off and realizing I needed to do that. Thoughts on that one? That's a tough one for me. I still struggle with that.
So one of the things that first popped into my head is the traditional kind of like we let men get away with more of that than women are allowed to.
Absolutely.
Right. So a man can be upset, angry, fierce, ambitious, put any adjective in there you want that can be perceived as both positive and negative. And men are traditionally allowed to get away with more of it than women are. So how do we work with that or combat that or address it?
I think that's a great point because I think what you just described, I've had that feeling before and left the conversation and thought, not my best work. I think that happens to everyone. I think
Yeah.
this is a human experience and it's such a good reminder to take a step back. But I think you also raise a great point, Brent, that yeah, that I don't know, some people are maybe held to a different standard than others, or women are more conditioned to kind of keep those feelings in.
Yep.
And also I think women also have more of a space to share those feelings with each other, where men, I think like you need to lean on each other as allies for each other too, and have someone that you can talk to about what you're feeling when you are at that high level where you need to take a step back, and having the courage to say, okay, I need to take a beat.
Yep, and I love this point though too, because that you know, that double standard still exists, right? Like you know,
Yeah,
that
this week.
you know, that
The whole
overbearing,
week.
you know, characterized as maybe strong personality
Yeah, go.
coming from a male
Go
gets
sit there.
can
Wait,
absolutely
don't
get
try.
put under an entirely different perception and field of view for women. I find that extremely upsetting, right? And that's another place. So being able to give people calm, like I said, the best medicine for that has been getting that feedback, like, hey, you know, that was, you know, that hurt, or that left me out. And doing that again, not with attention to gender so much as just treating each other as decent humans. That's the key point here. And so yeah, don't assume that someone's, especially because of their gender, but for any reason, don't assume they're a jerk. Their levels may just be off that day. Now, if they do it all the time, okay, maybe a jerk, but that's you know, that's I think the key point there is, yeah, that just being able to take that feedback and, but again, be that check on yourself too, and check out for each other. I have the benefit of having a terrible poker face when I'm pretty far off, and so people can usually kind of, hey, Paul, what's up? And even that question, just that, are you okay? To a certain extent, can be that can be helpful. Just not being able to recognize where you are sometimes. We rely on each other.
And when you've built up that community where you feel comfortable with the people who you're working with every day, it becomes a lot easier to bring that up and say,
Absolutely.
I'm not doing well.
I agree.
Or I need a moment.
I need a moment. I need help.
Yeah.
It can take on a lot of different forms.
Mhm.
Yep.
Part of creating new habits is awareness and practice. And so being aware of, oh, that thing 2 days ago, I was real crappy and how I dealt with that. And through practice, this is woo-woo. It's what you learn in meditation. But through practice, hopefully the goal is that you don't have that crappy. Your reaction gets earlier and earlier and earlier until you don't have it.
Right.
And part of that practice is making other people around you aware as well. So going back to the manpower example, even if you don't call it out for yourself every time, if you're listening and become aware of it, that's a good practice. If you're saying to someone else in the room, hey, let's not say manpower, that's another type of practice. And so we just have to keep practicing in order to effect change.
Right. And those practices, that becomes the definition of your character, not your biases. And that is so much more empowering for yourself and for everyone around you. I love this point. Thank you.
And don't beat yourself up for 2 days ago or 10 minutes ago, or you let someone say manpower because you were in a bad mood. Just next time.
I appreciate that. As my biggest critic is always waiting for me in the mirror every single day. And I think that's true of most of us. And so I really appreciate that point, because yeah, that's a struggle for me. Others, someone online. That other webinar must be really good.
And anyone online too, if you feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or if you drop something in the chat, we can read it out. But yeah, anyone online, please feel free. Pop in at any time.
Crowd.
Crowds.
No, that's all right. Well, we'll keep going and there'll, I assume, how we doing here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have time for more. And to open this up. So we'll get to this fourth one. That's, I want to couch this in the place of advocacy. All right. This is, I think, as a wingman, this is, you know, this is this is our charge, is to advocate from a place of kindness, first of all. So that's kind of going back to that last point. Two, with fierce determination. I really want to underscore that. You can't give up on this. There's no break or holiday from this. This is part of your character as you develop these skills and practices. And then the last part, you've got to be open to feedback. You've got to be able to receive people who are going to who will either call you out or ask you a question or whatever that's going to be. So let's just to kind of, you know, walk through some of these pieces. So, you know, this is a, I guess it's a bit of a, not stereotype, but a cliche. But I think it's a cliche because it's true. Being clear with yourself, with others, being clear in conversation is the ultimate kindness. All right, clear is kind, kind is clear. And so that's where, and so again, checking your levels, checking other levels, and stating as clearly as you can what you intend to do, whether you're having a person power discussion or saying, you know, that person said that idea and you claimed it later, or whatever that looks like. You know, you keep giving that person the menial task while the rest of us don't. Right? These sorts of things, you have to be specific. You have to be as clear as you can in these moments, and to do that, you have to be coming from that place of, you know, from a good place, a well-intentioned place, to be able to have that discussion. And then, you know, that next piece, you know, your fierce determination. I mean, in the end, this isn't about advocating necessarily for any one person or group or anything. It's about advocating for every single one of us so that we can all succeed, so that we can to optimally all find our way and our place to reach maximum potential. And I think that what you'll see in doing that is you'll get the most out of yourself when you engage that way, and then you'll also get the most out of other people. And by nature, but as that plays out, you will see, as you practice, as you have these conversations, you will see who needs the most help. That will become self-apparent as we all try to help each other out, and hopefully everybody then can tune in and build each other up. That's really what I mean by fierce determination. You can't give up on that. You know, I did mention sometimes, yeah, you have an off day, you take a break, but those, you know, that's a moment in time versus I'm talking about the long arc here where you're trying to work on behalf of yourself and literally everyone around you. So that gets you to that other part, you know, being able to own up to your mistakes, right? Account for them, apologize for them when necessary, and learn from them to ultimately, you know, all of this gets you to a place where we can forgive each other, build each other up, and continue to grow. I just, you know, I think, you know, looking at an office here, all these people who work together, I am seeing I mean, this is a diverse group. I can just, I know that just by Ormat's background, and also just by kind of the feel of the room here. Everybody's got a different background here. Everybody's got something to bring to the game here. Everybody's got something that makes this so much closer and so much better, right? So I just want to underscore that point. I mean, this is a culture that as you emanate it, it sort of self-manifests all around you. You won't be alone in doing this. It might start that way, but you won't be in the long run if you keep it up.
Something that I've found, I coach people on this quite often, and you could call it enhanced collaboration, but it's to recognize that because of what you just said, Paul, some people do have the same background as others, others don't. We come from different teams, but stating your intent with a comment and, well, first being aware of the need to state your intent, like, I want to talk about, or this is important to me because, or I think we need to address this as it will help us do whatever later, or I just want to align us on a common purpose, goal, mission, point of view, right? Or hear all the points of view. But it's a real good way to enhance collaboration because if we come with different perspectives on what's the intent here, what's the goal, what are we trying to achieve, you know, and you in geothermal, of course, I'm in HR, so take it for what it is, but I've been with Ormat for 2 years, so I know a little bit about geothermal. You know, you've got your exploration team, you got your modeling team, you got your geochemistry, geophysics. You're probably all on the same page, but then you start branching into very different teams, like the drilling team, the business development team, legal, finance, right? They might have a very different perspective on why is this important? Why are we doing it this way in this order? So simply asking or stating, I want to share my intent or the underlying purpose for why we're doing this. It can really get things off on a nice, good foot.
I appreciate that. And I think too, there's just that distinguishment you were mentioning, you know, drillers, HR, legal, all this. I challenge anyone here not to find something among that list that they don't have some sort of bias about or even against, right? That exists, and that's okay. Be aware of that, be conscious of that, because I'm telling you, every one of those people and every one of those groups, disciplines, whatever, just another human, just like you and me, trying to get through it all and make the best of it. So just recognize that you can start with that conversation, that intent, and recognize, you know, and so even if something crosses you, right, doesn't hit you right, step one, do not assume malicious intent. Do not assume that was a personal dig or something against you. It's really hard to do sometimes, but that's sort of the first place you have to go from, and then exactly frame it in the, okay, I want to understand. I'd like to get to know. Please help me understand, etc. Others? Anyone online yet?
Nothing in the chat. I think from a wing perspective, some of the most interesting conversations we've had, usually at conferences, are people that come up and don't get it, right? And so they want to start picking at Wing's mission in a way.
Yes.
But it's been interesting because those same people usually end up coming back, and they continue to want to have a conversation and continue to chat with you about it and go away and have a think and come back and continue that conversation and continue to try and understand. And that's where I think it's been those have been the most valuable conversations, or some of the most valuable conversations for sure, are the people that obviously aren't bought in, don't understand, and then they're definitely going away and thinking about it and coming back and continuing the conversation. And that's been the most interesting side of being involved in Wing and seeing it grow the way it has is because of those people and because of the industry and feeling like they can have a think and have these conversations. It's been really valuable.
I love this point, Kelly, because yeah, you're talking about a mindset there that's so key. Again, another a practice, a discipline. Being curious. Those are the people who come, ask. Sometimes, like you said, sometimes even kind of, you know, almost like, what is this? What are you talking about? I mean, I have definitely been as a wingman. So wait, okay, hi, 6 foot tall, blue-eyed white guy. You're here to talk about women in geothermal. Tell me more. It turns out there's a really good conversation to be had there. And that's because you can unpack this about advocacy, about a better work environment, about equity and what that really means to people. And so, you know, being curious, that's key. Recognizing curiosity and truly enjoying that. I mean, that's one of the things I think geothermal, if we'll even step back to the webinar you have, geothermal's in this interesting moment. a lot of people are getting curious about geothermal energy writ large right now. It's showing up in ways and in media that it just hasn't been before, in this country at least. And so that's going to open a lot of these. What does that mean? So what is geothermal? Then what is wing? What, all of this is going to come to bear. These conversations are going to be happening more frequently, not less, in my opinion, in every sphere. Stakeholders, general public, all of the above are now starting to ask, what is this all about? And so we have a tremendous opportunity if we're willing to foster that curiosity. And I think that's a really important point, Kelly. So thank you.
I think we all get the gist, but I don't actually know what Wing's mission statement is. Do you guys have it written down somewhere, or can we like circle back to that after somebody Googles it?
Yeah. Somebody Googles it. So there's the core values. I don't have them memorized.
Empowering, open,
What's
caring.
Kelly has a statue on her desk that
Yeah, it's mainly to promote the education, but also the promotion of women into leadership roles within the industry. So it's meant as a platform for getting more women to get involved in the industry, especially from a technical perspective. Actually, we were just chatting over here about the breakdown of women to men within just ORMAT. And I'm not sure if you guys have those numbers. I think it's quite high, a lot of men to women, but definitely on the technical side. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, I was in a meeting for one of our exploration sites, and I was the only woman in that room. And it continues to be the case that I am usually the minority, or most of the women in the technical team are definitely the minority. So trying to get more women into the industry, feel comfortable in the industry in spaces that maybe they didn't otherwise, but then looking to promote the development of women within the industry as well. So something that we've been able to demonstrate quantitatively is that in the last 15-ish years that Wing has been a thing, whether that's just the progress of the country anyway, is another question, but there are more women on boards within the industry. There's more women in leadership positions in the industry. So we do kind of pat ourselves on the back a bit about that, and point to the quantitative side of what Wing's been able to accomplish in the last 15 years. But does that help you?
And Wing also offers a lot of support in the form of, like, I'm a member of the Thermal Trailblazers group, which is a mentorship group that meets once a month. And each month we read a book about different soft skills, and then we get together and discuss. And it's really become kind of a community within that group where we meet once a month and we give updates on our lives and what we have going on. And it feels like I've really gotten to know these women through this group. And then other events too, like every year at GRC, there's an event. And it's also, I think it's the largest international organization in geothermal. So the headquarters or the leadership group is now in Turkey, but it was previously in the US, and it moves around every couple years. So it's really cool. And then Katie Smith, thank you, dropped the mission and the vision. So the Wing mission is, as Kelly said, a volunteer not-for-profit organization whose aim is to promote the development and advancement of women in the geothermal community. And the vision, Wing ignites the passion and courage that will make the geothermal community a global model for equality. Wing is actively breaking down barriers so that everyone in the geothermal sector can realize their full potential. The aim is to one day become redundant, where no group needs to advocate for gender equality.
Cool. Yeah, like sort of a pedantic question, but I think the language behind things like vision statements is sort of, I don't know, important to understanding the real like goals of the organization.
I don't see that as a pedantic at all. And I love that just kind of zoom out. Okay, what is Wing? You know, what's its mission? The core values were mentioned too. I'll state those because these are something I go back to again, just from that conscious place. So there's being caring, being empowering, being open, and being courageous, right? All those are the four aspects of that I think all define that Wing mission space, and we celebrate champions of those every year at GRC, and so you know, and look out for those people. Give the kudos to those people, recognize those people. none of those are easy things to do and be on a day to day, but you should, if you see it, recognize, acknowledge that. It's so key.
I think that's something we're trying to do more at Ormat, and I know a lot of teams across the world are as well, is we're not gonna recognize just results, right? That's, of course, you have to, as part of the business. You had a great project, on time, on budget, you got exactly the results you wanted. But we also need to recognize and appreciate the little things, the empathetic things we do for one another to lift each other up and make each other feel like we're good humans. We're not just an employee at a company doing this modeling or research or exploration. We are people who have emotions and needs and feelings and things like that. And if we start recognizing and appreciating others for the hard work they put in, the empathy they showed, the caring, compassion they gave to somebody else, like just the simple act of saying to somebody, hey, I saw that you went over and gave that person a high five, or you gave them a hug or a word of encouragement. Thank you for doing that. That means a lot. Keeps the team in positive spirits, and things like that. If we recognize and appreciate those, it creates a culture of that where then everybody knows it's not only acceptable, but it's part of who we are.
And I think that's the overarching message, everything that Paul is trying to convey, because having within your team, having that community and allyship and feeling safe makes every other aspect of your job easier and better when every person feels that they can bring what they have to the table without judgment or without any fear or anything. Like when I have no fear about calling Paul Spielman at 11 o'clock at night for a drilling question, or things like that. It's really crucial. I mean, feeling comfortable with the people that you're working with. I mean, you spend most of your conscious hours of your life with the people at work, and so having that sense of community is, to me, the most important thing, and improves every other aspect of your job and your ability to do your job. I know you have another
Yeah.
core aspect.
Well, we'll get to number 5. Actually, it was pointed out earlier. This is again, from a wingman perspective, one of the most important things you can do is ask. Okay, right? I think there's right here we're setting the framework for a discussion that I really want to make sure we have that take the rest of this time to. I would really love to hear perspectives on what women seek from their wingmen. Okay, what are those behaviors, or what are what are the sorts of things that would actually help to because I definitely don't want to mansplain at all what is going to be best for everyone here. That's not the point ever at all. The point here is to open this up. So, we've talked through all these different points. I'd love to, if there was something like, gosh, I was really hoping we talk about X or Y, or I really didn't agree with how this was couched. I'd love to get that kind of feedback right now. Get anybody to jump in and say, well, have we thought about, or can we address X, Y, or Z? Anything.
I got one.
Yes.
I know sometimes in technical meetings, it can got a lot of people kind of weighing in, like a lot of different thoughts and opinions. And sometimes it can be really hard to get a voice in those meetings. And as a wingman, I think one thing that I've always appreciated is if a guy is just like we're on the subject, like I know like maybe Emma's been working on it, like Emma, like, what do you think? And it kind of having someone like give you a bit of a floor to share your input and like let you know that it's valued is really nice.
It's what a great point, Emma. Thank you. That's that moment. Just take that's a good time out and check. You're having a meeting, and yes, I think we've all seen and experienced even day-to-day meetings that maybe can be dominated by one or two voices. There's all these other people that don't even get a moment in edgewise, and that's that right there. I mean, you're losing that part of of what could be the perspective, what could be, and certainly that's a disenfranchisement. Now you're not empowering that person who's right there, either in the room or online, to say what they really, to bring either their expertise or opinion or whatever. You've got to give everybody that chance. And that is my anecdotally, I can say, I think that's something that women disproportionately get affected by, right? As find themselves going, well, not this time, I guess, maybe next time. And that's severely disempowering. So I thanks for bringing that point forward. I think that's key.
And I would say, building on what Emma said, and Paul, you had said a little bit earlier, in those meetings, a lot of times we'll see someone, especially if they're more junior, they come up with an idea, but maybe they're not as confident about it and it just kind of gets glossed over. And then 20 minutes later, someone else brings up that exact same topic, and then all of a sudden they get credit for it. So, being that advocate and saying like, oh, hey, Paul, I'm actually really glad that you brought that back up because Maddie was talking about that earlier, and let's dive back into that. And, being that person who can kind of flip the table and not let someone, be it a man or a woman, take credit for someone else's ideas.
Thank you, Katie. Now that's, gosh, what a key point right there. That credit where credit is due, and recognize that. And that's one, it seems subtle thing at the time, recognizing who and when that was posed. Again, that specificity that we were talking about, that is a game changer right there. Now you have someone who, now you have a contributor in the room, not someone whose idea was stolen, and that leaves a mark. That puts somebody in a place where they no longer feel that trust, that level of engagement. You've lost a resource right then, just by not recognizing the person who had that idea or put in that feedback.
It's almost like a form of learned helplessness, where if it happens maybe 2-3 times, you'll just learn not to speak up.
That's right.
And then you lose all hope of being known as the guru or the expert on this or capable of doing that. And that's where we get burnout and, the kind of long-term effects on our career that nobody wants to see. But if I always watch out for that on the teams that I'm a part of, is who doesn't get to speak up and who doesn't speak up, even if they are the expert, especially if they're the expert. And if they're not speaking up and I know they're the expert, you got to make a point. And I'm reiterating what Katie and Emma said, but it's like, if I don't acknowledge that you are the expert on this, who will? And that's what I always go to, is like, I have that courage, and maybe it's because I'm a, blue-eyed, gray-haired white male, but something gave me the courage at some point in my career to say, I'm not the expert here, you are. Why aren't you speaking up? Oh, it's because you were held down, or you've learned not to, or something. Somebody prevented you at some point in time from speaking up, but I don't want to be that person. I want to encourage you to be the expert in the room and have that voice and get the acknowledgement and, the long-term satisfaction in your career from being the expert.
I have one. I've been thinking throughout this conversation of one like trigger for me is like introductions, especially like conferences and stuff. There's been conferences where I felt really nervous to participate because of initial introductions maybe weren't feeling very inclusive, or I kind of shelled up. And then other conferences where people were asking questions, even when I was like across multiple industries too, and different industries had different kind of barriers. So sometimes when you're introducing to like a new crowd or something, just saying like either asking questions to somebody new so that they can like get a chance to speak up, or introducing somebody that maybe isn't speaking up, that's like trying to be a part of a group and being like, hey, what do you do? Or, or helping somebody on your team. And this is my friend or coworker, kind of goes a long way to like setting the tone for like a conference setting and confidence.
I love that point. I mean, and that's you know, recognition can take so many different forms, and that's such a good point. Like giving someone who, yeah, maybe is you know, either unfamiliar with the team, or new to the team, or new to the group, new to the idea, give them a moment. And again, just so take that curious standpoint, right? Okay, here's somebody new, not let's bulldoze ahead, you better keep up. That's not empowering, and you're going to lose that moment, that person who could be right there with you the whole way, and perhaps interject some new ideas, you know, or a new perspective, make an advancement, right? You've got to, so slowing down, allowing yourself to be curious about that person, giving them a moment to be curious too. They'll probably have questions. They probably need to know a little bit about your history, your dynamic, and so forth. Be patient, okay, right? And that's such a key point. But yeah, I love that point. Just
And also just like remembering that they're like those things are for everyone, for all levels. So even if their contributions aren't maybe feeling as significant as like your level of expertise, still making them like, oh, when I was at that level, or something to pull them in, because they're definitely for all kinds of levels.
Love that point. Thank you.
There are no insignificant contributions. If it furthers our cause, it's significant.
That's right.
I definitely, as one last note, I say that as somebody who's really bad at it because I'm shy too. So, so I'm reminding myself that that's something I can work on to like introduce other people or ask or speak up, because it's not an easy one to do. It's kind of has to takes that conscious effort, like you were talking about, to sort of step out of your box and be the one that says something.
That's that, you know, and right there, I mean, all of these things we just talked about pretty much check every one of those, you know, core values we talked about, and that kind of courage. That's a difficult thing, and just and again, just recognize that, you know, that doesn't mean stop everything. Wow, that was an incredibly courageous statement. You know, don't be ridiculous about it, but give people just recognize when somebody's coming out of their shell in that moment. That is a key moment. They're vulnerable, they are curious, they are putting themselves out there. Use that. That's such a key moment, and one that is way too easily taken lightly.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. That's a really great point. And yeah, even when you're like, especially when I was early on, just starting to go to conferences like in college or go to networking events, I had such a hard time just going up to people and saying like, hi, what now? Like, I could not figure out how you network. And even just being in a small group of people talking and having that one person who like turns and looks at you to like let you finish your thought is so empowering too, especially when you're needing to grow your confidence and figure out how to make your voice be heard. So yeah, thank you, Courtney, for bringing that up. That's a really great point. We only have about 2 minutes left. So if anybody has any last minute thoughts or questions, this has been so great and the engagement has been amazing. So thank you everyone who's come in person and online.
A lot of really good examples of awareness and practice. Sometimes creating a space for someone's voice is maybe all you can do in the moment, or that's where you are in your practice. And then in other times, inviting people into that space and carving out room for them. So though it's not one thing is a winner, there's a lot of opportunity to make everyone, women, but everyone, feel welcome in these spaces, and a lot of varying degrees to which to do it as we become more comfortable with it, as it becomes more part of the culture. And that's the ultimate goal, according to be a redundant mission.
Love that.
From a legacy perspective, or what is Wing doing for, it's my understanding, and I've done a little research on this, that young girls at the age of 11 already kind of decide if they're going to go into a technical or what career they're going to select at that early age. Is there anything from a legacy perspective that Wing is looking at or a vision for?
From a legacy perspective. Yeah, I guess you know, the point I would make about that, and I'd invite other points on this, but the point I'd make there is that I think by making, creating everything from the safe space to the empowering space to and so forth, I think because what you're talking about is a culture of the industry here that I think provides a place for, let's say, next generation, young girls, et cetera, to feel that there's not just let's say, the technical side of geothermal that's interesting, but also that cultural side that I think makes it more engaging and provides a place to learn, to be curious, to get educated, and get mentored about what it means to be anyone in geothermal. But yeah, if you're speaking to, you just made a point that kind of made my hair stand up. That girls at the age of 11. Well, I have an 11-year-old at home, so oh dear, she's already figured it out. But anyway, this is an interesting point. But I guess that'd be my take, is that by setting a cultural expectation, you're setting up for success of say, next generation, what that legacy looks like.
UNR does have a girls in engineering group, and we actually just sponsored their shirts for a camp to learn at the different engineering opportunities. And it would be good for people, for them to be able to see the fabulous people we have here, and they're we have such a bright group in general. But it's to see that and have that opportunity, I think you can say a lot. Great.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Everyone who's here in the office, please. And if you enjoyed this webinar, all the previous recordings are available on LinkedIn, and the next one will be on July 16th with Silgi Jolisant, and the topic will be intercultural and corporate communications. So I also want to give a huge thank you to Brent and Kelly for ordering the bagels, and Robin, and also IT for supporting having this here in the office. So thank you, and huge thank you again to Paul for being here too.
Thank you, Paul. Good job, Maddie.
Well done, you guys.
Thank you, everyone.